Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sippin and Selling
with Joey Chanel. Welcome back to Sippin and Selling. Today I have a local celebrity. I have Kevin Abbott from Barrel of Monks Brewery. Welcome to the show, Kevin.
It's an honor and a privilege to be here.
Thank you. I was giving you a little feedback. I think that you're going to be my, master of brewing and beer and all things about the background, the inspiration, the foundation of beer, because I find that I don't know much about it. I've been very honest about that. And I want to educate the audience about what goes into beer, because I think majority of people think that you just brew it and that's it. It's like magic, carbonated, and you drink it and you like it. But there's a lot of different ingredients. There's a labor of love there. We don't know what hops are. Let's just get into all of it, because I think that it's very valuable. And I think that I want to be educated as well as my audience. So I think you're the man to do the job.
I sincerely hope so.
Well, Kevin, like I said, is here from Boca Raton. We're filming at my studio, Podcast Junkies in Boca Raton. And he has a brewery called Barrel of Monks. I think we should start with that name. Barrel of Monks. Where did that come from?
So in the Belgian brewing tradition, monks brewed beer, and this goes back centuries and centuries. Some of the oldest beer recipes we know were brewed by monks, whether they be in Belgium or Germany.
Okay.
And to this day, they still brew these beers, right? The Trappist monasteries, there's 6 of them, certified Trappist monasteries in Belgium, and they've been brewing these beers for a very long time. And they brew very specific kinds of beer. They're Belgian inspired. They have a particular yeast flavor to them. They use Belgian candy sugar in a lot of them. There's particular ingredients, certain kinds of hops that we mentioned earlier, certain kinds of grains that they're using. And we specialized in the very early days we only did Belgian style beers. So if you ever heard the term triple or double or quadruple, maybe not, I don't know.
Not. That's why we're here. I don't know anything. I want the what do they call it? The for dummies version.
So these beers, once again, timeless beers, usually higher in alcohol, sometimes very age-worthy. For instance, beers that will age 10 to 15 years and develop complexity just like a wine would. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes bottle conditioned, just like a champagne, right? Okay. So this is something that's been happening for a long time. We are doing those styles of beers, hence and therefore monks being in our title. We also made the terrible decision to say Barrel of Monks, like Barrel of Monkeys.
Right.
Right? Like a fun kind of play on words, which means that I consistently I'm introduced as Kevin from the Monkeys Brewery or the Barrel of Monkeys. Or one time I actually had someone try to sell me their services for something. Okay. And they ran a spot, an ad for me, and it said, "Come on out to Barrel of Monkeys Brewing," and blah, blah, blah. Right. And I had to turn around and say, well, that's wonderful. And if I ever find a brewery called Barrel of Monkeys, I will be sure to recommend your services for that.
So funny.
But yeah, so that's where that comes from. And my last name's Abbott. So, and Abbott is the head of a monastery very often. So I think it just kind of fits.
It does fit. You've got a couple little plays on words there, which is nice. And then I'm sure people also give you a funny time about if you have banana flavored and all that sort of thing too, to just keep going on the monkeys. But maybe not.
Funny enough, banana is a flavor that sometimes comes off of Belgian yeast without using any fruit. That's one of the things about Belgian beers that some people either love or hate, is that they have a particular flavor profile that doesn't come from extraneous ingredients. That come from the yeast itself. Wow. It produces different flavor compounds like phenols, which are spicy characteristics, or esters, which are fruity characteristics. Okay. So we might taste a beer here in a little bit, and I might say, hey, there's no fruit in there. That's what the yeast does to the beer. But I also should mention that we're about to celebrate our 11-year anniversary.
Congratulations. That's major.
Literally tomorrow, right? Of this conversation. So I'm not sure when this goes live, but literally tomorrow will be our 11th anniversary. But we do not just Belgian beers in these days. We do IPAs, we do other more traditional American styles, as well as German styles. We've really expanded our repertoire over the years because as you mentioned a little earlier, like the rabbit hole goes really deep, right?
For sure.
It's not just lager and ale. It's not just IPA and Pilsner. It goes as deep as you want it to.
I see that. And I'm trying to learn, and I want to familiarize myself, because I used to just kind of do what most of us do. We're like, I don't know about it. It's fine. But I like to educate, and I like to educate the audience, and I like to learn about things that I'm not going to say beer scares me, but it kind of scared me. I wasn't a beer drinker growing up, and I've been learning about it a little bit on this show, and I hear that, yes, like I said, it's a labor of love. So dumbing it down, there's machinery that you put water and then what else? There's the grains and you strain them is what I understand.
Okay.
I don't know what a hop is. Is that the top of the wheat? Like, what is it?
Okay. I'm going to give you like the rundown.
Yes.
Like the 10,000 foot view of it.
Perfect.
There are 4 ingredients in the vast majority of beers, right?
Okay.
Or actually in all beer. There's water, right? We all got water. But it can get kind of complex. You have use different salts and minerals to get different flavor profiles. We won't go into that. But it gets much deeper even with water.
Okay.
There are people that could talk with you for 2 hours about water profiles.
Wow.
But then we go into grains, right? It's usually barley and wheat. Those are the 2 most popular. But there's also, you can use sorghum. You can use quinoa. You can use all these different grains. Anything that can have a source of sugars that the yeast can eventually eat, right? And then we've got our hops. That is a budding plant, a green plant, right? That is a cousin of the cannabis plant.
Oh.
And actually gives us some similar flavor and aroma profiles, right? And those add bitterness, flavor, and aromatics.
Okay.
So aromatics, things like citrus and things like pine resin and things, sometimes even like blueberry and strawberry. Some of the newer hops will give you really interesting aromas. They'll give you similar flavors, and then they give you bitterness. And what does the bitterness do? It balances out the sweetness of the sugars.
Okay.
So depending on what kind of beer you're trying to make, I want a very bitter beer like an IPA. I'm using a lot of hops, right? And drying the beer out so there's less sugar. I want a very sweet beer. It's the opposite, right? And then the final thing is yeast, and that's what makes it all happen. Yeast is a microorganism that eats sugar and secretes CO2 and alcohol. So that's where the alcohol comes from, and that's where the carbonation comes from. So you got those 4 ingredients, and then I can throw in apples, I can throw in cinnamon, I can throw in anything you can think of, sometimes to our detriment, sometimes weird stuff like powdered Gatorade.
Oh,
People have
man.
used in beer, which I don't recommend. It's pretty awful. But, these kind of like extreme beers have been more and more popular over the last 20 years. But that's really the foundation of beers.
Got it.
And then you can start getting into the styles and what's a dark beer, what's a light beer, and all things like that.
Great. So let's try a beer while we're on this topic of cinnamon and apples, because you thought I would like that, and I would. I love a good apple anything, cinnamon too. Put cinnamon in my coffee every morning, even if I'm not having a cappuccino. So what is this called?
So this beer is called Spicy Orchard.
Look at this glass. And the vessel's important with Belgian beer, right?
The vessel's important with any beer, but so just to give you a quick little rundown. I was a wine steward for 7 years before I got into beer. So I got into beer because I could make good beer at home in South Florida. I couldn't make good wine at home in South Florida.
Got it.
So I wanted to do something creative with it. The glassware, the food pairings, these are all really important aspects of beer, just like they are with wine. A tulip glass like this concentrates aroma, right? Just like you would the wine, you want to give it a little smell. Say, I'm picking up, what am I picking up here? Am I picking up cinnamon?
I'm picking up
apple?
beer.
You're picking up beer? Well, you know what? You got it. It practically is.
Cheers. Wait. We have to cheers, Kevin, to 11 years. Barrel of Monks into meeting. Sippin' and we're selling.
So Spicy Orchard
Delicious.
is a Belgian blonde ale.
Yum.
So it uses a Belgian yeast strain. It's a very simple beer. There's not a lot of ingredients that go into it. We add apple, real apple juice in the post-fermentation, which leaves it a little bit sweeter than most of our beers. And then we add cinnamon during the brewing process, the very end of the brewing process, basically when we're about to put it into the tank and cool it down and introduce the yeast to it. So you're getting these spicy flavors, the apple flavor. But what's really important for me so often is to not go over the top.
Okay.
Now, you, as someone who said you love cinnamon and apple, you might have wanted a lot more there. But my goal is nuance, and my goal is subtlety, right? When I was in the wine business, I loved Italian wines that didn't get like a big jammy cab, right? There's nothing wrong with that. Those are delicious too. But I was always a much bigger fan of things that every time you go back to the glass, you get something a little bit different.
Got it.
Not one ingredient dominates the other. And in this, you're getting, I hope you're getting the ingredients I talked about, but I'm also getting a little bit of lemon zest.
Yeah, for sure. You definitely have some other notes. And then you were talking about what makes the carbonation with that last process with the yeast, but can we talk about how the foam lasts like this in the glass? Is there like a trick to how you do this or no?
So there's a lot that goes into the chemistry of brewing. So I was a brewer for a long time. I run operations at Barrel of Monks now, and I pay bills and I do everything, right? But I haven't brewed in quite a while.
Okay.
I was never the greatest brewer of all time when it came to chemistry. I understood recipe formulation, and I think I did a pretty good job, right? I brewed all the first batches at Barrel of Monks. But there are people that really know this stuff, and a lot of it revolves around what's called foam-positive proteins that are inside the beer that allow you to have that like lasting head.
Right.
It's also about the ingredients you introduce. If you do a beer with like cocoa nibs in it to make a chocolatey beer, some of the oils of those cocoa nibs make it impossible to have a really nice foamy head.
Okay.
And there are ways around that too. I'm not good enough to know those. But what we call lacing, or that kind of head retention, you drink with your eyes, right? So you want what looks like a beer to you.
Right.
And when you have this, you see that lasting head retention. You see things sticking to the legs and stuff sticking to the glass, and you're like, it's a beer. It looks fresh. It looks lively. There's also a little bit of higher carbonation in this beer, if you might be picking that up.
Yeah, I was. That's why I was asking, like, how you were telling us a little bit about how it happens. Most people will ask about carbonation. They're like, how do they do that? Do they, like, before they put it in the bottle, zip it with some air? And I'm like, no, that's not how it happens. It actually happens in the tanks, right? But then there is you can do extra carbonation.
So I'll give you like 3 levels of this.
All right, cool.
You can we call spunding. It's basically where I capture the CO2 that's being released and I keep it in the beer.
Okay.
And by doing that, you get these really fine, refined bubbles, right? Think about like a nicer champagne because it's natural carbonation. We spun a little bit of our beers, but then you have forced carbonation. That's where you put a stone in the tank,
Wow.
a secondary tank, and you force CO2 through it, and it dissipates through the beer.
Okay.
That's how the vast majority of, if you go to a grocery store right now and pick a beer off the shelf, 99% of those are forced carbonated. Okay? Because it's just the easiest way to control it.
Okay.
And you need a very specific amount of carbonation in a can so that you don't get foaming and you get all these other things going on. Those bubbles I used to call clumsy, like they're just not as tight and refined.
Okay.
But that's what most beer is like. This beer is a mixture of being spunded, right, where we have some natural carbonation, and of being forced carbonated. Then the last level is something like that, which is 100% bottle conditioned. So this, just like a champagne, I make a beer, I let all the CO2 out. It goes out into the atmosphere.
Okay.
I then put it into a tank. I add yeast and sugar, just like you would with a champagne. You bottle the beer, you put in a cork, right, in a cage, and you let it naturally ferment for 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay.
And you get natural carbonation. That's, once again, those refined bubbles. But it's a process, a lot of extra time and energy, right, that goes into it. And also, it can fail.
Right.
If you don't have the right measure of sugar and yeast, you can be too flat or too bubbly.
And then you're burping and it's repeating.
And then you've got carbonation, right? That's one of the glorious things about beer. So those kind of like 3 ways you can do it. And once again, there's partial can conditioning or bottle conditioning. But big breweries, like say like, I don't know, Budweiser, they're capturing their CO2 during fermentation and just reintegrating it back into the beer later on.
Understood.
They have a capture process, but it's not natural carbonation going into the beer from the very beginning.
Okay. So you started brewing at home in Florida because why? You just loved beer and you couldn't find a flavor or profile you were looking for? You were bored? What was that story?
So when I found beer, so when I was working as a wine steward, there was a gentleman who was a home brewer who I started teaching, right?
Okay.
He was a server and I had to teach him about wine. He said, I'll make you a deal. If you teach me about wine, I'll teach you about beer.
Oh, okay.
And I was kind of a snob. I mean, at this point, I was like 23, 24. Like, I thought I knew everything, and I was very snobby, right? I thought wine was this beautiful, timeless, food-friendly thing, and beer was like, what you drank at a ball game, right? And he started out by talking about the ingredients. He's like, what ingredients go into wine? And it's yeast and grapes, essentially, right? He's like, he went into the whole rundown of the 4 ingredients and the fact you can introduce other ingredients, right? He also talked about all the differences between the malts and the way they're roasted and the way they're caramelized and all the different things that went into it. And I was fascinated how complex this really was. And because he was a home brewer, I just started kind of hanging out with him. And I said, well, this is really cool. And then from that, it kind of grew my love for just beers out in the market. And I would go to a place called Coffee District in Delray Beach. And Chung, the owner, always had all the most special rare beers on that were available down here.
Okay.
And this was back in 2002, 2003, before the explosion of craft beer down here. It used to be very rare to get your hands on. And, I have a beer that's a Belgian dark strong ale with blackberries and raspberries. And you try it for the first time and you go, I didn't know beer could taste like this.
Right.
Right. And that was the exciting thing. It kind of opened my mind to it. And that's when I started brewing as a home brewer and eventually,
Moves on to bigger and better things, more professional. Well, that's very interesting, Kevin. I honestly, like I said, I've started to learn that there is this beautiful process, and even this vessel here, like I've never seen beer in a wine bottle. Is that traditional for breweries only? Because do they sell beer in bottles like that at liquor stores? No, right?
Oh, yeah. All the time.
They do?
Yeah. It's just you've never noticed it because you weren't looking, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in fact, this predates a can
Really?
by several centuries.
Okay.
This predates regular bottles by centuries because there used to not be technology to allow you to carbonate beer in any other way than this. And when you have to carbonate in a bottle, you need a champagne bottle. You need a thick bottle with a punt,
Right.
So that can hold carbonation. So, when we opened up in Boca, and with my history in wine, I thought we were going to teach everybody about the complexity and the majesty of beer. Like we can do food pairings, we can do all these great things. They're age-worthy. And most of the time, your response is just the most typical response ever. Mm-hmm. I'll have that wine.
Right.
I'll come to a beer fest.
Yeah.
Oh, you have wine. No, this predates all the stuff you think of as beer, right? These styles. And there's so much depth and complexity in the styles, but you go to Total Wine & More right now, you can buy a 750. Now, these styles of bottles are not as prevalent as they were 10 years ago.
Okay.
A lot of people have gone away from them because they never really caught on with the masses. Beer nerds, so to speak, love that stuff. But if my neighborhood has a party, if I show up with 6 of these, people are gonna look at me like I'm crazy.
Right.
Right. You need sometimes a special opener, and you need all this stuff. I show up with a cooler full of cans. I'm the most
you're
popular
the
guy
highlight.
at the party, right? So we are doing less of this than we ever have before, but we always have an aspect of this because it's traditional. It speaks to who we are. If you come to my brewery right now, you can look at a vintage beer list and pick out a 2019 quadruple.
That's
and you
cool.
can crack it open at the bar and pour a new fresh glass and see how they change.
Wow.
How that time and that oxygenation manipulates those flavors.
Very romantic description. I love that. So Barrel of Monks has this one's called what?
So this is the anniversary beer, right? So every year we produce a special beer, I should say, for anniversary, and this one's called This One Goes to 11. It's a Spinal Tap reference.
Oh.
I'm old enough to, have loved the original movie before the new one came out, and so do my partners. I have 3 partners at the brewery.
Nice.
And this is a Belgian blonde ale, an imperial blonde ale, so it's higher in alcohol.
Okay.
And it's aged in Calvados barrels, so
Oh.
apple brandy barrel. And this is like limited, 12 cases total produced, 12.
Wow.
Right, 12 cases of 12 bottles. Never will be produced again. You have to get it at our anniversary party. You have to get it, quickly. And so many people will buy. Sometimes one person will buy a case of it, and they'll set them down for a period of time. But if you look behind me, this is another beer. It's called our Grand Cru, which is a beer that we do every single year, but we change the recipe every year. It just denotes a special beer for us.
Okay.
There's no extraneous ingredients. It's not barrel aged. It's the 4 main ingredients of beer. You can see it's vintage so that you can see, very, very apparently when that beer was produced. And this is a kind of beer that we'll do every single year and change and tweak subtly. And there's another one behind me that is produced year round, right?
Amazing.
So we have all those different levels.
Love it. So when people come to the brewery, do you do events and do you serve food there?
So we have tons of events that go on. Like we have a comedy show,
nice.
2 nights every month.
Okay.
We do things like we work with Making Strides Against Breast Cancer. We actually make a beer every year for them in support of them. And they do like a bingo night once a month that we do in our private event space upstairs. So we do stuff like that. And then for like our big parties, like our anniversary party, there'll be a band out there and we'll have, the taps outside and all you can drink passes and things of that nature.
So fun.
So we do a lot of that. We do a big Christmas party every year, because a Belgian Christmas beer is a big, hairy deal in Belgium. Every great Belgian brewery does a Christmas beer. So we do that as well. And talk about food, we have a permanent food truck partner called Chefery Eats.
Nice.
They've actually been on Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives.
Fun.
So they've gotten national recognition. They do burgers. They do pub fare really, really well. They do like the crazy burgers with like an entire piece of burrata right on your burger, or like a fried chicken breast and a burger on a bun.
Crazy.
So they're our permanent partners. They operate independently of us, but the truck is there. They're open every hour that we're open, and we, they have cooler space in our place, and we've been doing that with them for 7 or 8 years. So there's always food there. It's the same food. It's consistent. You can count on it, but we don't operate like a restaurant kind of thing.
Understood. And so you kind of could do your food pairings if you wanted to. I'm sure you have some recommendations for the different.
100%.
Yeah. That's good.
I love it. I actually used to do a thing called the throwdown beer dinner. We stopped doing it because we got too busy.
Okay.
But it was literally, we would pair beers on the fly with a blind menu. And I would bring in another brewery or even a winery. I had Josh Wines in at one point, and they brought 4 wines, I brought 4 beers, and we didn't know what the food was going to be. And we had to use one of our 4 for each course and could not use it again.
That's fun.
And I'm happy to say that I won that pairing.
Good job. I love a game.
Yeah.
Games are so fun. That's cool.
Yeah. So,
what a unique activity.
And it just shows how versatile beer is. And I don't think people think about beer in that way because they think about every beer's Budweiser or every beer's Coors Light or Corona. And I want to say, by the way, just because I own a brewery, we're 11 years old, I've been doing this now for almost 20 years professionally. I have no hatred towards those macro beers. I don't think they're bad beers. I don't think they're particularly interesting most of the time, but they all have their place. Right. If I go and hang out with friends of mine and they're taking me out in the boat and they got nothing but Coors Light, I'm going to drink that Coors Light, and I'm going to enjoy it. It's refreshing. But I think that there's more depth, there's more interest, more interesting things if you allow yourself to kind of get into that world.
1000%. So those of you listening, you have to go check out Barrel of Monks if you haven't already. And if you have, please DM us and let us know what your favorite flavor of beer is over there. So Kevin, with your extensive background in this brewing, you started somewhere. You said you started in Del Rey at Cafe Luna Rosa. I used to frequent there because I used to sell an Italian cordial, and we were on the menu there.
Oh, really?
It was called Fergoli. It was a wild strawberry liqueur. I don't know if you remember it. It had the tiny little berries in the bottle that float. 2009.
I was gone by then.
Okay.
Yeah, I was there from 2002 to 2007.
Okay.
And then I started at Funky Buddha before, not the big Buddha, not, the production facility in Oakland Park, the tiny little hookah bar and concert venue in Boca that no longer exists.
Oh, nice.
And I started there in 2008 when we opened the brewery.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you took a lot from what you learned there onto Barrel of Monks, and maybe some things that you saw that you could have done better, or like maybe they weren't doing these bottles and you decided to do that, or different flavor profiles that you felt customers were looking for, or no?
So, I mean, there's a lot that goes into that, right? So I brewed the first batch of Hop Gun and Floridian, which are their most popular beers. You can buy it at Publix right now.
Okay.
Right? So I did that, and the ownership grew into this giant monolith, right? But there was many reasons why I decided to move on. I eventually got a chance to do my own thing, right? And it wasn't because I decided I didn't like that place. It was just more like, oh, I have an opportunity here to have actual ownership, right? And that's very good for my finances, my future, right? So that was an important aspect of it, and being able to have the creative freedom to kind of do what I want. And I have partners, by the way. I can't just go and do whatever I want. Right. But at the end of the day, I had a lot more freedom. I actually worked at Due South Brewing in between because I knew I was going to go over to Barrel of Monks eventually.
Where's that?
So it doesn't exist anymore.
Okay.
But they were the first commercial brewery in South Florida. They were in Boynton Beach, around for a while. Kind of speaks to the industry down here. There's been a lot of closures, and it's a lot of struggle right now, quite frankly. And but they've been gone for a little while. But I knew that Barrel of Monks was coming. My partners just weren't ready yet. They had the finances. They hadn't put it together. So I went there and brewed there for about a year and a half too. So a lot of experience brewing on several different systems. Made a lot of mistakes.
Okay.
Learned from my mistakes. Learned better ways to do things, and then grew into multiple roles. Right. I started just being a brewer, and now it's marketing, sales, everything.
Podcasting.
Podcasting.
So with that, I love to bet on myself. Sometimes it's scary, right? To have to then decide to go out, and even though you have partners, you're in charge in a different capacity and your name's on it. And obviously financially it's a little scary and daunting when you do that. And I understand that because I do it myself every day. But it sounds like you had a following that people went and followed and were looking for you for. I mean, maybe that's not the reason why that other brewery isn't in business anymore, but you took your love and your knowledge and, you backed it with a plan, which is amazing. And it's super special. But like I said, I know nothing about beer, so you're teaching me. When it comes to the beer industry, is it typical to start with a brewery and just like have your products there? Or is it more typical to be like, I want to do a craft beer and I'm going to go outsource it?
So that's a great question.
I did a great beer question.
Well, because the landscape has changed so much.
Okay.
Everybody I know personally in this industry started as a home brewer down here.
Okay.
Everybody. The beer industry was it was as dry as the Sahara, right? There was nothing happening down here. And craft beer, I'm from Detroit originally. In Michigan, it had already exploded. In California, it had already exploded. We were very behind the ball when it came to that. So there was a void to be filled, or at least we thought there was. There was a void to be filled. So I think a lot of people jumped like full bore into it. I think that the smartest thing you can do, especially in this landscape, in 2020, first of all, if my best friend comes to me in 2026 and goes, Kevin, I'm opening a brewery, I say, please don't. Not because I don't want the competition or something, but because it's a real struggle, right? It really is the market. We can talk about that in a little bit if you want.
I do want to. We have to.
That's not healthy right now, okay? And it hasn't been for a long time. But if you're going to do it, and because you have a passion for it, and you can offer something unique and interesting that no one else is doing, which is great, I would recommend you start with a brew pub. And what a brew pub is I make beer, I sell it on site, that's it. I'm not trying to get into Publix and Target and 7-Eleven.
Okay.
You start small, where your margins are good, you can control everything in the building, right? And then as you're successful, you can branch out. What we did at Barrel of Monks is we started with a 10,000 square foot production facility.
Oh, small.
With a giant 20 barrel system, and a barrel is 31 gallons. Picture, you know what a full size keg looks like, right?
Yes.
So 2 of those is a barrel. So one batch of this beer can produce 40 half barrel kegs.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And that's not even the biggest, right? Like there are 100 barrel systems, right? Funky Buddha is so much bigger than us, it's insane.
Really?
Right? When I say 10,000 square foot, I think they have 60 or 70 or 80,000 square feet. But for us, the kind of production I have to do to justify that floor space, I got to be in Publix. If I'm not, I have to be trying. I've got to be in multiple counties, if not multiple, all throughout the state of Florida, which I am, or even in different states. I've got to produce a lot more beer. And we've been able to kind of chip away and do our things. I just got 190 placements in Publix.
Amazing.
Literally 3 weeks ago we found out, which is the most we've ever had. I've had smaller amounts, but we've just grown into that, which is great. But it's been 11 years. Yeah. Right? That didn't happen overnight.
No.
So that part of the industry, people have different opinions. There are people that started even bigger than us, and some of them are out of business now.
Yeah.
Now, you also asked about having somebody else kind of brew it for you.
Yeah.
Those are called contract breweries.
Okay.
And there's a handful of them. There's one called Brew Hub that's in Lakeland, Florida. And we talked to them years ago about producing our package product. And ultimately, there's no margin for us to make any money on that. There's ways to do it and make money if you're at volume, real volume. But there wasn't enough for us to kind of make that leap. So that I look at contract brewing as that's for growth, like real growth. Not that other people don't do it. Not that other people don't contract with a massive place like that, or they go to the brewery down the street. I have had people approach me constantly. Kevin, will you make my beer? I don't have the tank space for it. I don't want to deal with those complexities. I don't want to deal with different distributors and have someone coming in and saying, oh, my IPA doesn't taste right. But there's tons of people that are doing that.
Interesting. So congratulations with Publix. That's not a small chain to get into. And you have 190, there's 320, I believe. So you got some more room to grow if you want it. But yeah, I mean, everybody thinks that you cast this wide net and you'll be good to go. But I've talked about it on my show before. That's the easy part, is like getting into those chains. And like you said, it took you 11 years. Potentially you could have been in earlier, maybe waited, which is smart. But then you got to get people to buy it. And like I said, there's a lot of people out there that definitely are familiar with you and your brand, but there's people like me that don't drink beer and we don't know what Barrel of Monks is. And we want to shop local, we want to support local, but we don't know. So I feel like it's so much harder than once you get into these chains to then program them, market it, make sure that your strategy is right. And can I ask a dumb question? Does beer have an expiration date under a year, or is it 2 years, or how does that work?
So much less than a year for most beers. Now, when you're talking about a beer like this, really no. The beer you just had, I'd give it about 90 days.
Okay.
Before I would say that it is no longer at peak tastiness, right? It's not going to hurt you if you drink this beer after a year. It's just not going to be as fresh.
Right.
So no, I mean, and especially things like IPAs, very short shelf life for those. So no, you need turnover. I just had a woman reach out to me and say she bought one of my bottles, which I don't even make anymore. We've switched to canning for our smaller format, from 2023.
Wow.
Off a shelf in Miami.
Wow.
We have no control over that.
Right.
We are in a 3-tiered system. We sell the beer to the distributor. It's their job to move it. We don't merchandise it. Most of the time, we're not even allowed to. But in some stores, we can. I go to the local Total Wine & More, and I'll merchandise my stuff all the time. But at 190 Publix locations, I got one sales rep. We get 10 total people that work for my brewery, right? There's no one to go do that. You have to lean on your distributors to do that and make sure the product's being rotated and things. And there are all kinds of things that I learned that I thought, oh, we made it. We're in this store. And what you said is, it's so perfect, because the second you get that place, you have this big hooray and you call up your partners, we got it. And then the realization hits, you go, oh, now I got to keep it.
Yeah.
Because now I got to ramp up production and I got to make that amount of beer. And then if it goes away, there's no place to go to replace it. Right? I'd have to do Target, Walmart, and, I don't know if Winn-Dixie still exists, but I have to go and get all those at the same time just to equal what Publix can do for me.
I know.
And it's terrifying.
It is terrifying. And get yourself something so you don't keep choking over there. What are you drinking now? What are you switching to over there?
No, I'm drinking the same thing because.
It's in a can?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that one's in a can.
Okay.
Mostly. I'm not trying to crack anything else open. I know you have a little bit of beer left.
I know. I'm sipping it slowly. But yeah, so with Publix, that is the question why I was asking about the expiration date, because, okay, so now like you're talking about that, and this will be a great segue for where we're at in our state of the industry. So basically, most people have this distributor. Who's your distributor? You care to share?
Oh, of course, yeah. So we're with Gold Coast.
Gold Coast. Okay, great beer distributor in Florida. So in theory, they should have a sales and marketing team out there that are merchandising, like you said, and hopefully helping spread the word. But in theory, you own the brand. And in theory, nobody's going to sell the brand like you. And you should be out there somehow marketing it like we're doing today, but also social media and every other way that you can. But most people do samplings. And when it comes to samplings in Publix, it isn't cheap. It's like a minimum $250 to do a 3-hour sampling. And you're at the mercy of them not having competitors sampling. And then you're also at the mercy of the foot traffic, right? And you guys are lucky because you're a beer, so you'll be on the grocery side. But for my spirits partners out there, they're in the liquor store side, which unfortunately, I feel like the Publix liquor stores are like an afterthought. It's like, oh, shit, I forgot. We have people coming. I need to grab a bottle of vodka. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think most people are going and shopping and buying their alcohol at the Publix liquor stores unless it's on BOGO, which Publix loves to do. And then there we go. That's another problem you can run into once you have 190 placements. They want you to be in their ad, or they want you to do, if you have multiple SKUs in there, do a buy one, get one, or some sort of scan program. And then all of a sudden you've got a hefty bill of $30K and you're like, oh, okay, that's nice. So it's a lot. It is.
It's a lot to consider, and we haven't had to do any of that stuff yet because we hadn't been in enough stores. When I was in 50 stores, 70 stores, we really weren't on their radar. We were growing slowly but surely, and just going off the little brand recognition that we have. Hopefully our cans are attractive on the shelf, right? Something resonates with somebody, and we were growing, so it was working. We weren't growing by leaps and bounds, though.
Yeah.
The sampling thing, one thing you mentioned some really good points about why that's challenging. You also have someone from a third party, not from your distributor, from a different third party, a sampling company, that doesn't know anything about your product. So, and I could send my sales rep to that place and say, hey, Steve, this is what this beer is. This is how you talk about it. But they're never going to sell it like you do. Before my son came, my son's 8 years old, I used to work 7 days a week. And I would go to, and this is before we were in Publix, I'd go to Whole Foods, Fresh Market, Total Wine & More, Lucky's when they were still around. And I would do samplings on Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. And I would go, and I'd sell sometimes 10, 15 cases of beer.
That's great.
And not to toot my own horn, but during that time, I used to get pushback from the stores. They're like, we'll bring in 2 extra cases for you. And I'd say, I'm going to sell 6. And they said, no one sells 6. I said, you don't get a lot of people in here that are passionate about their brands and are willing to talk to people.
Or owners. Mostly owners are not doing the samplings, me included, anymore.
Yeah.
I've graduated, so I hire an agency.
Yeah, and this is, once again, this was quite a long time ago, right? But there's just a big difference in how much you can move and how much of a relationship you can build with those people. And when you're local, hand them a free draft card. Come to our actual brewery. We miss that portion of it. In the brewery world, most of my revenue, still to this day, in this 10,000 square foot facility, comes from my tap room.
Okay.
The majority of it, right? It's actually total sales are about 50-50 at this point for what's going out there, but my margins are so much better. So I love to stay local and drive people, hey, you love this beer. Yes, please buy this at Publix or Total Wine & More, but please come to the tap room and get it there, or just come in and have a draft and enjoy other things, right? But the complexities of that and the challenges with that, we're just kind of getting into it now with the TPRs and the BOGOs, and we're having conversation right now. What do we want to do? We need to be aggressive. We need to be a brand that gets on their radar and not just be a one and done.
Yeah. You don't want to be a flash in the pan. We talk about this on the show a lot, and the worst thing that can happen to you is getting DQ'd at a chain like that, because them and ABC, it's like you get one shot and like then you're blacklisted, unfortunately, for a couple years, which sucks. And it's a big investment. And I always tell my clients that, they're always so excited. And they're always like, what else can we get? I'll get them a chain. They're like, great, we got Whole Foods. Now what's next? Target? And I'm like, guys, you don't understand what's coming. It's a lot of money. Even though I'll tell them ahead of the submission, I'll be like, hey, do you have this amount for tastings? Do you have this amount for scans? What are you thinking with training? So going back to those agencies, I usually tell all of my clients to pay for a training where we're paying every person who comes on the Zoom call, minimum 30 people, for the hour. We're paying them something to join the Zoom call just to learn about the brand that then they're supposed to be selling. And we're probably giving them a deal like, if you sell 6 cases, you get a bonus or whatever, 6 bottles for the spirits. And it's just so funny. And that's not a perfect storm or a perfect formula, because maybe that person who's supposed to do your demo that weekend gets sick, or their kid gets sick or whatever. And now you got some substitute who didn't join the Zoom call. Yeah. So it sucks.
And, you were talking about, we're talking right now about, you're out there, how do you actually market it properly? And this is one of the great ways. Getting your beer into people's hands, letting them try it right where they can buy it is massive, right? But that's not the majority of what we can ever do. We are constantly bombarded. We have a marketing team that does all of our social media. They're called BelieveX. Nice. And they've been working with us. We've had many teams over the years that have done very good things for us. But we know we have to have a social media presence. We know we have to be able to have email marketing and text marketing and things of that nature. But the ROI on that is impossible. It really is, especially with the alcohol brand. I don't know how other alcohol brands are, but I'll just say for a beer brand, I can't ship. No one can click a button and buy anything but a ticket to an anniversary party for me, which is great for me, but they can't click a button and get this. It's not like you're selling athleisure, right? So it's really difficult to track ROI. I've had so many people have come to us over the years and said, we're going to do all this for you. And then I'm like, you didn't even ask me what I'm looking for. You didn't ask me where my baseline is. You didn't ask me what a success would look like. And this is a company we're having those conversations, which is great. But for a beer brand and someone who's been in the industry for a little while, I can say, if I'm going to spend money marketing in this nebulous pot of endlessly throwing money into it because you want to do this, that, or the other, doing a TPR or a BOGO at a retail giant is probably the best gamble. Doesn't mean it's going to succeed, But it's the best gamble you can make because you can actually see numbers. Did they go up? You can track it. And if you end up saying, I did this program and it was a wash, right? Okay, I know what happened. It was a loss. We lost $2,000. Okay, that's $2,000 of branding that we put out there and $2,000, more than $2,000 of sales in their numbers that are representing us in a good way that means we might stick in there later on. So far, after all this time, that's where my head's at. I was actually just having a conversation with a friend of mine about this because he's in a similar situation.
Okay.
And we were just kind of, hey, what do you want to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Because it's a nervous situation.
Yeah, because like I said, well, the good thing is if it performs well, you're paying for your own product that went out the door if it's a BOGO, right? So like that's good because there's a return on your investment that was a direct hit. Where with a tasting, as much as I believe in liquid to lips and I love liquid to lips, you're at the mercy of the day. Today it's raining. It's a horrible day. Do you think people want to go stop and shop? No, they don't. They want to go home and lay in their bed and watch a movie. So at the end of the day, you only are paying for what's scanning through the register on that scan, that TPR, which is nice because it's only applicable if they're buying Barrel of Monks. So I personally love those type of programs, and I tell all my clients to do those because you're paying for your product and it's only your product that's selling itself, which is nice. Yes, you'll have some foot soldiers out there that may say, oh, listen, this is on sale today. Why don't you get this instead of that? Slim to none, But I think that that's the best investment you can make. But yeah, if it performs well, great, they're going to order more. And you're going to have repeat buyers, hopefully. So that's important. When it comes to beer, I feel like you've taught me a lot today. I feel like I've learned a lot. I feel like one time I was prepping for a call about beer and I was hearing about I want to say it was sanitizer or something that they put in the beer. Like it was like a weird name, and that must be the other components you were talking about in the beginning with the water. Maybe it was some sort of mineral that like in my mind it's sanitizer, which is not right.
Oh no, you're probably right.
I am?
Well, when I was a brewer, and
Okay.
I would go to a party and they would go, what do you do for a living? I brew beer. And it was always like, oh man, that's awesome. You're probably sitting around all day drinking beer. No. Right? First of all, no, you can't be drunk and work all day.
Right.
But secondly, what I would say is I'm a glorified janitor. My only real job is to clean and sanitize things. Nothing will ruin a batch of beer quicker than unsanitary conditions. Microorganisms will spoil everything. This is it. Before fermentation, this is a bacteria soup, right? It is sugar that anything that got into it could just ruin a batch. And we're not talking about a homebrew batch of 5 gallons that I'm going to give to my uncle, and give him a 6-pack. We're talking about thousands and thousands of dollars in product that I put into this, and I have a deadline for when that beer has to go out, and then you're putting it down the drain because you had unsanitary practices. So every tank that we use has to be sanitized, cleaned first, right, and then sanitized. Every hose, every tri-clamp, like the clamps that put the hoses together, anything that touches that product needs to be cleaned and sanitized. The bottling line or canning line needs to be meticulously maintained. So now all those things are safe, right? And so like what we use is a sanitizer called peracetic acid. It denatures over time. Like it's a no-rinse sanitizer, right? So, it's not like that ends up in the beer, right? But it is like the most important thing you have to do.
See, I remembered something.
There you go.
I'm trying here, Kevin. I'm trying. I'm trying to bring all the facts, all the knowledge, all the things I think that are important for everybody. And I wanted them to hear and learn about your brewery because it sounds like it's really beautiful. I'm going to take a tour over there and try some beers myself and get unafraid of the beer category. This one's delicious. The flavors keep growing on me. The apple is getting stronger,
Warming up.
Yeah, it's
right?
delicious.
Just like a glass of white wine, right? When it's super cold, it's going to be, it's not going to be as expressive. It's not going to be as aromatic. As it warms up, it's going to be a little more flavorful. Too many people drink their beer way too cold.
Okay.
It's just like anything else. A lot of times you see like a beer like this, I'll put it in my hands.
Yeah.
I'll warm it up, right?
I was doing that first. I was holding here, but then I saw you holding the glass of the stem, and I was like, well, shit, maybe I'm doing this wrong. Do people put ice in their beer?
Sometimes.
They do?
Yeah, sometimes.
Is that like sacrilege?
No, listen, this is, I'll tell you a quick story here. When I was in the wine business, and there used to be a restaurant in downtown Delray called 32 East.
Okay.
One of my favorite restaurants of all time.
Not there anymore?
Not there anymore.
Okay.
They were one of the OGs, like fine dining restaurants in Delray when Delray was not Delray.
Okay.
Right? And my dad came down on vacation, and I ordered a couple $100 bottle of wine because I'm in the wine business and I'm making a little bit of money and I want to impress him. Right? But my dad didn't care about any of this. He'd never drank a $200 bottle of wine in his life.
Was he still living in Michigan or?
Yeah. So he was down on vacation, but I'm trying to impress him, right?
Yeah.
I'm 22, 23.
Right.
And the first thing he does is take a big old handful of ice and put it in the bottle. I think it was Tignanello, right? Antinori Tignanello. And my girlfriend at the time like grabbed my knee under the table, like, don't say anything. And I looked at her and I said, that's my dad. He can do whatever he wants. He could put a splash of Sprite and grenadine in that thing and make a faux sangria.
Right.
I want people to drink things like they want to drink them. If you want your beer super cold, drink it super cold, right? But what I would suggest is try it in the way it's suggested. Just give it a try, right? Drink an imperial stout a little bit closer to room temperature. You might hate it, right? But you might actually pick something up on it. And maybe you don't drink it quite as cold next time. If you have a beer, then you want to water it down because that's how you prefer it. Try it at full strength. See how you like it there. Give it a shot in the way we recommend, but there's no wrong answers. You know, you want ketchup on your steak?
Oh, the worst.
But I mean, listen, people should enjoy things the way they enjoy them.
That's true, especially if you're spending money, right?
I really believe that.
I love that answer, Kevin. It's very PC of you. Very PC. Well, I really did love this. Should we have another? Should I chug this and we try something else?
I would love you to try this.
Let's try it. I'm going to chug this. Watch out, everybody. Here comes some fun.
So I will say, as someone who does not love beer, right, is still learning.
Yeah, I'm learning.
The Belgian styles would be very friendly to you. I actually do a flight of beers. I've done this for years where I compare Belgian styles to wines and I do a 1-for-1 sampling.
Okay.
Where I compare like a Belgian double to a Pinot Noir.
Woo! Pop goes the bottle.
Where I compare a triple to a Chardonnay and I compare a white ale to a Pinot Grigio.
So what does a triple and a double mean? Does that mean twice the distillation or something?
So it's just it's higher alcohol.
Okay,
and it's
color's
just
different.
The way that it's a designation of higher alcohol in a more special beer that was made by the monks. It's the best way I can describe that in kind of a simple way. It's not tripling alcohol or tripling malt bill. Some people think that, but that's not true.
Yeah. I think another thing people think is, because you were talking about barrels and we're explaining them as giant kegs. Do you actually ever put beer in real like wood barrels? This one?
Calvados barrels. Yeah,
okay.
Apple brandy barrels.
Oh, nice.
This is actually a risky beer for me to give you. Because
Great.
This is like, I believe this has to be around 10%. No, 8.5, but it's still higher in alcohol than normal.
Smells like beer again.
But it's a barrel-aged beer. Right? So there's a lot going on in here. But I highly recommend give it a try, see what you think.
Salute. Don't you are not a gentleman today.
No, I'm not. I jumped the gun.
Wow. What is the flavor I got at the end?
So to me, it's very nutty.
Yes.
There's a lot of nutty. There's roast in there that comes from the barrel, a little bit of char.
Yes, the char.
There is that slight tinge of like that appley fruitiness.
Were you scared to give this to me because you thought I'd say it was gross or something?
No, well, this is a
I'm
thing.
going back for a sip too.
Well, this is a thing. It's a challenging beer to have. If I would have pulled out that beer right there, that's a triple. It's 9%. I can tell you it's stone fruit and caramel. It's lighter in color. You probably would have liked that more.
Yeah, but I want to try. I want to learn.
But because this is so unique, it's our anniversary beer. It's only 12 cases produced altogether.
Special. It's for the special Sippin and Selling sips.
And it shows, once again, how deep the rabbit hole can go.
Yeah, no, it has a very complex flavor. I can't put my finger on it. It has to have that char. I think it's a char because there is a feel on the mouth. But the smell doesn't match the taste.
And that will catch up as it warms up a little bit.
Okay.
But
I taste maple.
Yes. I'm getting
Am
that
I
too.
right?
Well, once again.
Tastes like syrup to me. I'm into it. I keep going back because of that. But that burn, the char is that's intense for someone who doesn't drink beer. But I'm relating it to a strong alcohol feel in my mouth, which I do like.
You know, so much of the stuff is suggestive. Like once you say it, you taste it, right? I used to joke around when I was working in wine that I would go, "Oh, do you get like the celery in there?" And they go, "Yeah, I do." And I'm like, "I don't. I just made that up."
Gross.
You gotta mess with people sometimes. But what I'm getting here is like a tawny port.
Okay.
I'm getting that nuttiness, that sweetness, that maple that you're talking about. That's the closest flavor profile that I could give to something that I also love. I love tawny ports, but that's
It's
what I'm
very nice. It's definitely unique. Thank you for sharing your anniversary bottle with me. I feel so special. Ben, you're going to have to try some because I know you like beer. Well, that's delicious. So you're on your 11-year anniversary. What's next for you, Kevin? You got into Publix. I'm assuming you're in other chains locally. And are we looking to grow outside of Florida? What's the plan here?
So we did some limited distribution outside of Florida. It didn't go very well just because when you don't have a sales rep in the area, no one putting a face to a name of a brewery, it's just hard. A lot of breweries expanded too quickly. I think we did, but it didn't hurt us at all, right? It just took up some of our production and maybe some of our time. I'm focusing as much as possible as on kind of hyper local. I mean, we sell beer in Jacksonville. I sell beer in Tampa, right? But the vast majority of my beer is sold here in Palm Beach, Broward, Miami-Dade counties.
Okay.
So we're focusing on that as much as possible. And we are just trying to get our market share and try to get visibility. Because to this day, when I go to my kid's baseball game and someone sees my shirt, they go, "Oh, you like that brewery?" And I go, "I own it." And they go, "Oh, I never heard of it." We've been around for 11 years, right?
Yeah.
We're in every Total Wine and More. We're in every Whole Foods and Fresh Market. We're in every ABC Liquors. We're in every Flanagan's, right? Like we're a lot of places.
Big time.
But craft beer is not that visible, and we're just trying to get our share.
I love that. And we were touching on the state of the industry, right? So everybody always asks me this question, like they're all terrified. I've been doing this 18 years and my dad's 89. He's been doing it a lot longer than me. And, you know, every day is a challenge. And I definitely have been seeing a lot more layoffs and, you know, unfortunately distributions being shaken up and the turnover and all of the sadness about it. But I think you're right with the passionate brands that stay true to who they are and they know what their mission is and their why, you know, they're going to last, which is great. But it's also like, let's be real. Let's talk about it. It's not so peaches and cream over here. It is scary. So does it make you guys feel like you want to scale back, not necessarily talking about the Publix part of it, but maybe with different types of flavors? Like, did you always come out with like maybe 6 new flavors each year, or it's just the one anniversary? Are you thinking of non-alc? Like where is your head at?
So
Been drinking too much already. I can't talk.
We do a ton of new beers that are taproom only. But we only produce a couple new beers every year that go out into distribution. And even then, it's very limited distribution. We're talking about like 20 kegs.
Okay.
It's not even in package. So we rely on our core beers. And we have Single Havana. It's a Belgian blonde ale with guava. Our white ale called the Wizard. And our Waypoint IPA. If you go into a store, you're going to see one of those 3 beers if you see us. You're never going to see this stuff. That's if you come to the tap room. So we're not looking to expand to new cores. We're looking to focus on our cores and grow them because then we get economies of scale. Everyone wants you to do a new thing for them, right? But you got to stick with what you know and try to grow it as much as possible. So we're focusing on that. Mm-hmm. We are limiting some of the new beers at the brewery itself just because we have production issues and we just have so much tank time, right? We have so many tanks to make beer in. So we're focusing there. The NA space, that is a 100% macro play. It is not for local. Nobody is going, I want my local NA beer. They're going for call brands. They're going for Athletic. They're going for Sierra Nevada. They're going for your Stellas and your Budweisers and stuff like that.
Yeah. I
see nothing we could do in that space. It's a grocery store cooler placement. There's no draft handles to get. No one's doing that NA drafts. Okay. It's not a play. And we've had this conversation internally. My partners, one of them really wants to do NA. And I have just said, guys, we will not make $1. It will be a waste of our time and energy. So we've stayed away from it. I think we can make a great NA beer. I don't think we'd ever make any money off of it. The THC drinks, that we just produced one. It's a margarita cocktail. It's not a seltzer.
Nice.
I wanted a full flavor drink. It tastes like a margarita. And it has 3 milligrams of THC in it. It's not even called Barrel of Monks. It's called Clever Bird. That's a new brand that we're doing. And we'll see what happens. But the laws are going to...
Every day. Yesterday, something changed. So, you know. But
so we don't even know if we'll be able to do it in 8 months. Right. But we have been tinkering with it. I have some plans to maybe do like an Arnold Palmer or a Moscow Mule. It's like I want cocktail flavors. Seltzers are fine, but... I can drink my Spindrift. I'm a happy guy. I don't need that for my THC drink. I want something that tastes like a cocktail, that has that social aspect to it. Mm-hmm. So we are dabbling there. We're getting, but it's only in the tap room right now, right? We have to see how it works there and see if we can expand it. But right now, it's our cores. We're focusing on cores, focusing on large distribution outlets where we can get one decision maker to say yes and then support them instead of trying to chase around every mom and pop. We have to be there. We have to, and we will. But over 11 years, I've realized that's not where you're going to make your money.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing your knowledge of the industry, Kevin, and being my beer expert. I appreciate you sharing your SKUs with me, your anniversary version, and the apple cinnamon was definitely on par with what. See, I can't even talk. Drank too much beer. The bubbles are going in my head. Everybody, go check out Kevin Abbott over at Barrel of Monks, the brewery here in Boca Raton. And obviously, once they get into Publix, please go pick it up. Tag them. What's your Instagram?
It's at Barrel of Monks.
At Barrel of Monks, and let them know what you think about the flavors. Guava sounds interesting. Are you using guava from Florida?
So we get it from a company that's outside of Florida.
Okay.
Like it's a massive company that supplies a lot of breweries. So I don't believe it comes from the state. But Single in Havana, our Belgian blonde ale with guava, is our #1 selling SKU.
Love
It's
it.
a light blonde ale. It's not sweet at all, but it's really tropical, and it's what most people know us by.
Delicious. Go grab some.
Please.
Tag us. Post your photos of you on the boat. Instead of drinking a Coors Light, drink a Barrel of Monks guava. Guava, what's the name of the beer?
Single in Havana.
Single in Havana. Na. Thank you so much, Kevin. Is there anything else you want to say to the audience?
No, just thank you for having me on. I love talking about this, and I'm here anytime you need me.
Sounds good. And well, you're going to have to come back when you have some more SKUs you want me to try once I get more acquired taste with my beer elevation. I'm getting there. I'm graduating. Well, thank you again, Kevin, from Barrel of Monks here in Boca Raton. I'll see you guys next time. Cheers. Cheers me.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sipping and Selling.
With Joey Chanel.